Hey guys, this is Dr. Saurabh Bhatia, and I'm the host for your Zen podcast. Today I have Dave and Kinoshi with me, and we are going to talk on the topic about the anxiety before an interview and how to overcome that. Welcome, Dave and Kinoshi, and let's start.
He's great to be here.
So today we're going to be talking about something I think pretty much everyone has experienced at one point or another in their lives.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Is that feeling you get right before a big interview, like when your heart's kind of racing a little bit.
You get those sweaty palms.
Yeah, exactly. And like your mind is just going a mile a minute and you're trying to remember like everything you've prepped for.
It's funny because that anxiety is actually a completely natural response.
Really?
Yeah, it's like a primal instinct almost, getting you ready for a challenge, but like anything else, you can learn to harness it.
So how do we do that?
Yeah, I mean, whether it's anxiety is natural or not, one thing that I am already seeing people face is that when they go in for the interview, they already feel that there is a lot at stake. While I try to tell them that you don't have that job right now, so you have nothing to lose. But people go in with the mindset that there's a lot at stake, and that kind of makes them nervous.
That's a really insightful point. You're right.
Yeah, it's like that feeling of needing to prove yourself, right?
Exactly. And it can create this high pressure scenario that just amplifies the anxiety.
It's like they've built it up in their mind so much.
It's that fear of losing something they don't even have yet, like you said.
Okay, well, let's unpack this and get to some practical tips.
Sounds good. Let's dive in.
Cool. So let's start with something simple, like breathing.
Okay, sounds good.
I know it sounds basic, right? But imagine you're in that waiting room.
Okay, yeah.
You're feeling all those pre-interview jitters. What if I told you that you could hit like a reset button on your nervous system just by changing the way you breathe?
It's funny you mention that because focusing on your breath can be so powerful.
Like how?
Well, it's about being really intentional with your breath.
Okay.
Instead of taking those short panic breaths, you want to slow it way down.
Okay.
That 4-4 breath you mentioned earlier, inhaling for 4, holding for 4, and exhaling for 4 is a game changer.
I've heard of that, but I always wondered, does it really work?
Oh, absolutely. When your focus is on your breath, it shifts your attention away from all those thoughts that are spiraling in your mind.
Right.
You're grounding yourself in the present moment, and on top of that, you're actually activating the parasympathetic nervous system.
So is that the system that like helps you relax?
Exactly. It's the system that tells your body, hey, we're safe. It slows your heart rate. It calms everything down.
That's pretty amazing that something as simple as breathing.
Yeah, so body has sympathetic and parasympathetic systems which act in opposition to each other, and their balance is what keeps us in our current state of mood. And if we are really frightened, if we want to run away, if we want to fight, it's all the sympathetic system kicks in and takes care of it, while the parasympathetic system kind of calms us down if we are able to stimulate it by this deep breathing that Kinoshi was mentioning just now.
That's a fantastic breakdown. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I really appreciate you highlighting the interplay of those two systems. It's so important.
It really adds some context to the breathing exercises we were just talking about.
Absolutely. And it shows why that simple technique can actually have such a profound effect on your state.
Okay, so we know breathing can help regulate your body's response to anxiety, but what about our minds? I know a lot of people talk about the power of positive thinking,
Yeah.
but what about visualization? Like, does actually picturing yourself succeeding really make a difference?
Well, it's not just wishful thinking, that's for sure.
Okay, tell me more.
It's about creating a mental rehearsal, giving yourself a practice run before the real thing.
Oh, I like that, a mental rehearsal.
So if you can vividly imagine yourself confidently walking into the interview, making a good impression, answering questions with poise.
Right, like you're already there.
Exactly. You're giving your brain a sneak peek at success, which makes the actual event seem less scary.
So it's like tricking your brain into thinking you've already done it.
Exactly. And that familiarity reduces the fear of the unknown.
Makes sense.
And it's not just some theory either. There's plenty of research, especially with athletes, who use these techniques.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah, they often perform better under pressure when they visualize beforehand.
Okay, so we've got breathing, we've got visualization.
Uh-huh.
But what about good old-fashioned preparation? Researching the company, practicing your answers.
Oh, without a doubt, preparation is key.
So it really does affect your confidence level going in.
It's like having a map in a new city. The more you know, the less you're going to be nervous.
Okay.
You have a sense of direction and that uncertainty. Oh, go for it.
Yeah, so in fact, what I would go to the extent of suggesting that use artificial intelligence to ask you questions, give your answers, and then ask the AI to grade your answers. And if you do that in preparation, you will be pretty confident because the answers that you will finally be carrying in your mind would have been refined twice or thrice by a system which knows more than you about that company and about that subject matter.
That's a really interesting idea,
Yeah,
actually.
that's next level prep.
It's like taking the practice interviews to a whole new level, and I love that it uses AI to refine your answers.
It's like having a really
Oh, yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah, sorry. I also wanted to mention that now with real-time AI, like with OpenAI and others, we can actually talk in real time with the AI, and that is like really helpful when you can ask, you give an answer, and the AI, which has been configured to be your interviewer, can give a reply back to you about the accuracy of your answer, or even suggest that how it could have been better.
That's a great point. It's like having a personal interview coach.
Yeah, the real-time feedback loop is incredibly valuable.
It's like having an instant mentor.
Exactly, and that can really fine-tune your responses.
Okay, so we've talked about breathing, visualization, and AI for prep.
And how preparation is just key to feeling in control.
So, would you say that having questions for them is important?
Yes, it shows you're engaged and curious, not just trying to get any job.
Right, like you're not just being grilled.
Exactly. It turns the interview into more of a conversation.
Okay, so we've talked about calming our bodies and our minds, but what about those negative thoughts?
Uh-huh.
You know, the I'm not good enough, or what if I mess up gremlins that love to show up at the worst possible time?
Ah, yes, those can be tough.
So, do you have any advice on how to deal with those?
Well, instead of letting those negative thoughts take over, you have to actively replace them with positive affirmations.
Give me an example.
So instead of thinking, I'm gonna mess up, you can tell yourself, I'm prepared, I've got this.
Okay.
Or instead of, I'm not good enough, you can remind yourself, I have valuable skills and I deserve this opportunity.
Does that really work?
You'd surprised how powerful it can be to consciously shift your
Oh, yeah. Go on.
Yeah, sorry to butt in. I also use another technique in my own case, and that is like I imagine that if these people, that company, they already had the skill which I'm going for, and they had enough people, they wouldn't be
Oh, that's a really
interviewing.
interesting technique.
Yeah, I like that.
It's like you're shifting the pressure off of yourself.
Right, instead of thinking, I need to prove myself, you're thinking, they already see the potential in me.
That it's a great way of flipping the script, and that might give you some more confidence.
It's almost like you're stepping into a role you already have, like an actor.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Okay, so
Yeah.
back to positive self-talk. It's all about shifting your inner dialogue.
Right. It might feel a little weird at first, but the more you do it, the more you start to shift your inner dialogue.
I love that, being your own best advocate.
That's right.
I'm definitely going to have to try that one.
I think you'd be surprised. Okay, that's really interesting. So you're almost visualizing the outcome like a predetermined success.
Yeah, like you're already part of the team, so there's nothing to be afraid of.
That's a fantastic way to reframe it, and I can see how that would take the pressure off.
It's like you're just joining in rather than being evaluated, right?
Exactly. It's a shift in perspective from trying to get the job to already having it.
Okay, that's a really cool technique. Okay, so one last question I had for you is about timing. You know, does showing up early really matter that much?
It can make a huge difference. Absolutely.
How so?
Well, imagine this. You arrive late, you're flustered, your heart is racing because you barely made it.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
Now, compare that to arriving early. You have time to compose yourself, just acclimate to the environment. And it really ties in well with this whole idea of positive self-talk and affirmations, which I was about to get to.
Oh yeah, we were just talking about replacing negative thoughts with positive ones.
Yeah, so it's like instead of thinking, what if I mess up, you can remind yourself, I'm prepared, I've got this.
Right, and that ties into what you were saying about preparation being key.
Absolutely. The more you prepare, the easier it is to believe in yourself.
So it's like confidence building confidence. Oh yeah, that's so much better.
Right. It's a totally different experience, giving yourself that mental buffer to transition to calm.
So as we wrap up our deep dive on conquering interview anxiety, what's the biggest takeaway you want to leave our listeners with today?
Interview anxiety is normal, and it's not a sign of weakness, like you mentioned at the very beginning.
Okay, yeah, most of it.
And we've gotten to hear different points of view, too, which makes the discussion that much richer.
Yeah, and we really appreciate you sharing your thoughts along the way.
It's been a very insightful conversation. Thanks for joining us today for this deep dive.
And until next time, keep diving deep, and thanks for your interest.
Bye for now.
See ya.
Thank you guys. Thanks for having me.